everyone, and welcome back. Today we are going to be making some sourdough English muffins. I am using Farmhouse on Boone's recipe mainly because, well, for two reasons. One, I love her recipes, and two, I can really just throw this all in a bowl and forget about it until I need to make it in the morning. The recipe will be linked down below in the description box, but I am just starting off with adding some flour, sourdough starter, and some water to my bowl. Her recipe calls for fed starter, but mine was unfed, and I figured it would be fine because it has all this flour to use to rise, so I did not use fed starter, and I also just didn't have any fed starter ready, but it turned out just fine with unfed starter, but you can use fed or unfed. I then added the water and let it get all shaggy, and then I covered it with a tea towel and then stuck it in my oven while it was off and let it rest overnight until the next morning when it came out and it rose beautifully. It was this nice, fluffy, light dough. Once that was all ready to go, I took my Danish whisk and I kind of just pulled it off from the sides a little bit, worked it together a little bit before adding some salt and some baking soda. And then worked that all together until it formed a nice dough. I kind of used my fingers and worked it together before I turned it over, giving it almost stretch and folds to bring everything together. And once the dough was in a consistency that I was pleased with, I added some flour to my surface and then I turned out the dough. Her recipe called for, I believe, 12 English muffins. I just thought they were going to be much too small, so I ended up doing 8 instead. But to each their own. I cut it in half, and then in half again, and then in half one more time. I formed them in rough balls before bringing them over to my cast iron pan. Once I had my balls shaped and ready to go, I added some coconut oil to my cast iron pan, let it get nice and hot, and then I added my English muffins to the pan. I tried to sort of round them out and get them as round as possible with my bench scraper before adding them to my pan, and that is just personal preference, but you can really do this and add them to the pan without having to shape them. And I let them hang out for a little bit. The recipe says that you're really only supposed to turn them one time, so once they were brown on the bottom, I gave them a nice little turn, and then I determined the doneness by the feel of the English muffins. So if I pressed my fingers on the top of the English muffin and if it still had some pushback to it, then I figured it wasn't done. It wasn't until they felt stiff to the touch that I decided they were done and took them off the heat. I think these turned out super well. I decided to split my English muffin in half and then have one half with a fried egg and just some hot sauce because that is how I love to have my eggs. And then the other half I used some homemade strawberry jam to finish it off. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe. I make 2 new videos every single week on all things sourdough, homemaking, and country living. I appreciate every single one of you for watching. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video, and I will see you in the next one.